Last September, 10 of us from Bloomington, Indiana, and a couple of nearby towns spent a week helping to rebuild houses in New Orleans that were damaged by the Katrina hurricane 2 years before. We organized through the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bloomington and worked out of the Little Farms United Church of Christ in River Ridge, a suburb of New Orleans. The UCC Disaster Ministry also supports groups at 2 other churches in the area. We worked as 2 crews. Here's one of them. That crew was working at the home of Miss Vera, shown here. This door shows how deep the water got. Actually, it may have gone a little higher, but this shows the point at which it kind of settled long enough to leach the paint. Here's Cyndi mudding drywall. Here some of us are putting a new roof on a carport that had leaked into the house. Here's our second work crew, with Miss Sophie, the homeowner, front and center. At Miss Sophie's house, we installed cabinets and molding and did other finishing work. That included painting, as Oscar's doing here.
I went to Baton Rouge. I was away from home a whole year for Katrina. What happened is, I didn't leave. And my niece came over and stayed with us, and it was 3 of us here. But the water was so high in the back apartment where my daughter was living, she lost a lot of stuff down there. She couldn't stay down there. The lady in the front had been there 19 years, but she said she wasn't going to leave because I wasn't leaving. I said, look, you only have one daughter, like I have. Keep up with your daughter, because if anything happened, I can't do anything for you. So sure enough, she haven't got back yet. She's still in Dallas. We keep in contact, you know, but because I think I'm about 11 days older than her. I said, you're too old to be depending on somebody else. You keep up with your daughter. Your daughter have her own home. She left. But here, they hauled us out. And we slept on the bridge. We one of them slept on the bridge all night. Right there at 610, we slept on the bridge all night there, my niece and my daughter and I. Then they took us to Houston, Texas, to the Superdome. So we stayed over there until my family found out where we was, and they came and picked us up. Well, they brought us back to Baton Rouge, and we all stayed there because I have a lot of relatives in Baton Rouge, and my sister has a lot of relatives on her husband's side as well, so his mother's side in Baton Rouge. So we were all comfortable. But it took a while to get back home. But you have to have a pass to come in and out. But my daughter worked for the state, so she was able to get a pass and come in and out, and she was able to come in and check on the house because you couldn't get in without a pass.
The Little Farms Church was impressively well organized to take groups of volunteers week after week. For example, volunteers from Ohio had built bunk beds in 3 of the Sunday school rooms to house volunteers. Here Bev is moving in for the week. We used the church kitchen to fix many of our meals. Hugh is cooking dinner here.
Say you're a family here in New Orleans that your home was flooded, and typically the houses we work in had between 3 and 15 feet of water, depending on where your house is, what neighborhood it is in. So that means you've got a gutted out structure. You've got no money to fix it. You may have lost your job. For whatever reason, you find yourself with nothing left. And you've got this gutted out structure and no means to rebuild it. So that's where organizations like ours come in. That's where donated dollars from Red Cross and Salvation Army come in. Now, so how it works, you make a phone call, and in New Orleans you can dial 211 and get connected up with one of several organizations that are doing case management and casework. It could be a Salvation Army, Red Cross, Catholic Charities, some local organizations, United Methodists. You get connected with a caseworker. That caseworker verifies all your information to make sure that your need is in fact legitimate. You know, that you don't have hidden money, you didn't you know, there's no bank account offshore somewhere. And then agencies like ours we'll go out and we do the physical assessment of the property. We figure out what is it going to take to physically get back in your house. The sheetrock, the doors, the paint, the electrical, all that stuff. You know, one of the things that's happened is that it doesn't matter, you know, what the theology is here. We're all here for the same purpose, including yourselves. You're here because of your compassion to help the people of New Orleans that were affected by Hurricane Katrina. And that's why I'm here as well. That's why everybody's here. So we have that unified purpose for being here. And to work together as different organizations is really a wonderful thing to be a part of. Because we put the denominational lines aside, and we just here to help the people that need it the most.
Your second stop is where the barge came through, which is the lower 9th Ward. When you cross over the Industrial Canal, you're going to look to your left, and there's going to be a big green space. It looks like now that it's a park area, but if you look to the left first and then you look to the right, you're going to see a neighborhood and lots of houses. And before the storm, both sides looked exactly the same. And so the barge hit on the left side, pushed water in at huge forces, and basically knocked the houses down for the most part. The houses are built differently in the lower 9th Ward and the mid-city area. They're raised up on the pillars, and so when you have a huge body of water raging towards a house that's kind of lifted up a little bit, it's a perfect agent to just lift that house up and move it. And that is also where a lot of the deaths occurred because of the history of the lower 9th Ward. It still has the highest percentage of poverty in any area in New Orleans. And so because there was not a mass evacuation, public evacuation, a lot of people didn't have cars, relied on public transportation, and were forced to stay or chose to stay all over the city, but mainly in the poor areas because they didn't have any choice.
Is that land privately owned by the homeowners, or?
Yes, I'm glad. Some may do. It'll make sense when you get there, but some of the lots have not been maintained, so there's grass and there's shrubbery that's probably 10 feet tall. And the city, at least a year ago, started fining residents that were not maintaining their lots, so basically mowing the lawn. And then I think once the city has given so many warnings and so many fines, my understanding is that they can take over the land. So some may do and some may not still own it. You'll see, though, when you're driving around in the lower 9th Ward, there is progress that is being made every day. Very slow, and because the impact was so big, the rebuilding part looks a lot slower. But you'll see new houses coming up, new foundations being poured. I always look for new window stickers on houses or doors. So, you know, just look for those because there is rebuilding going on.
Here's some of the UCC program's equipment. In back of the church, there's this workshop and storage building. The pins here show that volunteer groups have come from all over the country. And here are locations in the city where various groups have worked. Here we're finding our way in a self-guided tour to look at various levels of damage in different parts of the city. Up and to the left, you can see where the Industrial Canal levee was repaired after a barge broke through. Houses in the lower 9th Ward were swept away because of that break. Many houses are still unrepaired here and elsewhere in the city. Most damaged homes were marked to show who checked them, when they were checked, how many dead were found, and sometimes other information. Some unusual homes are being built with donated funds. These new pumps are intended to reduce the chance of future disaster. The French Quarter was largely undamaged by wind and water during and after the hurricane. Finally, here's where you can go to get more information about the UCC Disaster Ministry Program in New Orleans.